online. So I just wanted to take a quick moment just to say thank you to everybody for all your support and love um, of King and I. So thank you so much. I've read all your comments. I've tried to respond to as many as I can. And I just wanted to also encourage you all. There's so much still going um, on YouTube about him, and it's really sad to see because these people are just regurgitating lies and regurgitating stories that are not true, and attaching King's name to people that he doesn't know and he doesn't mix with. And it's very sad that I think that people can't try to make a living in some other form other than using a famous person's name, somebody who has worked very hard and has achieved a lot for his life with his life and with what he started off with. And I just pray that most of you are sensible enough to stay away from the gossip and stay away from all of these channels that are perpetuating chaos and disorder and confusion and just creating drama. And because they are addicted to drama, they're addicted to this situation. They find stories that are toxic or that are detrimental, and they just regurgitate them. And I've posted a lot about that on YouTube, about just people using celebrities as a means to make money. There's nothing wrong with the fascination with celebrities. I think that's very natural, because of course they're gifted people, most of them, not all, but most are gifted people. So, there's nothing wrong with having a channel that shares some news that's factual and true about celebrities. But I have a problem with people that are just online to make money from gossip and slander. I have a problem with people that make up lies and find lies online about celebrities. Because I do forget that these are real people. I have a real problem with people just attaching the RKelly brand name to anything that they post because it will get them views, and I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of the Tasha K's, and she's going to definitely have to face justice very shortly, because you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because there's more than just I know these emails that people are talking about, and I've posted all about that. I've made a video about that. I really want people to pay attention. King and I are in a transition phase. I've like, I don't want to get into too much of what's going on in the background. All I can say is just wait to see what happens in the next coming days, because I think it's going to shock you all. And hopefully it will be a very, very welcome surprise, because the tone of my voice is not by accident. I think that those of you that know me, those of you that follow this channel, know exactly what I've been through in these years. So if you hear me being positive, there's something that's going to happen that is very positive. And one thing I want to say, about, Jennifer Bonjean and his attorney. I have to say that I just want people to be careful what you hear, what you're following on YouTube. I can't say too much because otherwise I'm going to give away exactly what's going on. And the unfortunate thing is the channels that are spewing lies about him, the channels that are spewing fraudulent lies and stories and non-truths, are the ones that are expanding and growing. So my little platform here with him is not growing as fast because I'm not spewing lies. And unfortunately, people don't want to hear the truth, because the truth isn't as interesting as a lie. If I sat on here and I told you a bunch of lies about him, if I attached his name to all kinds of fake stories, I promise you I would get a huge following, because we have a sick world. We have a world that is in chaos, and people are addicted to gossip and slander and negativity at the moment, because their lives are so empty. So people are addicted to these things because they don't have anything else going on in their lives, or they just want to feel validated that their life isn't as bad as they feel. So as long as they can find gossip and slander about celebrities like him online, and drama, then they feel like their life is somehow not as bad. And, hats off to them if that's how they feel. But unfortunately, it's not reality when it comes to the RKelly name and brand, because it's been misused and abused by every person I can think of online. Every channel besides the channels I've set up for him are not spewing the truth. And I'm not saying this just to bring people over here. Like, there is not one channel I've come across that has any truth, any factual truth. And even if they have had some contact with him, I think that people need to be aware that people are not they're not focused on the truth, and they don't want the truth from him. What they want is just to make money, to be famous online, to make a name for themselves. Sociopathy is a disease of the mind. I can't even stress to you that how much you have to be aware of the mental illness that's online, the people that are not mentally well, the people that are just addicted to attention. They need the attention, and they'll use him. King cannot see their accounts online. He cannot see what they're posting. He cannot see the kind of chaos and craziness that these people have been creating over the 5 years, 4 years, 4+ years that this has been going on. 5 years really, but 4 years of his his cases. But I think that these people are just not honest, and I'm so sick of it. I can't express it enough. I've been so patient with these people. Thank God a change is about to happen right now. I can't say any more than that. There's going to be a massive, massive thing that happens, and I cannot tell you any more than that, because unfortunately there's so much evil online, so many malevolent and malicious people that don't care. They will hide behind the RKelly brand and pretend to be all about him. But I cannot believe that the same people that will make a video like saying, free RKelly, the next video they'll make is, well, he belongs in there. You've got to see these people are not mentally okay. And if you follow these channels, you have to see through these people. Please stop following these people online that have these channels that keep posting his name and attaching his name to things. Please stop following these people that are not his friends. Even his relatives, he has very little to do with most of his family. You all know what he's been through with his family. And that includes his immediate family. Yes, he loves them. Yes, of course, he says hello and he stays in touch with his brothers. But I have to tell you that the relationship is not close. It's never been, for a long, long time, it's not been close. And that's not been because of anything King has done. So if you see them online, supporting certain channels or people, or don't ever attach it to King and what his mindset is. Please don't attach, his enemies with his name. He's very clear about who his enemies are, but people have been manipulating him from, outside of here, trying to get him to follow their channel, to support their channel, and it's a form of manipulation. It's a manipulation that they can't help, because as long as they get the views on their channels, that's all they care about. They want you to have those, they want those likes, they want people to follow, they want people to like their channel. That's all they care about. They don't care about him. This is the only channel that has the truth about his story from A to B. There's nothing on here that's hearsay. Everything is stuff I've lived with him, and I don't post anything I don't know about, because that would be, for me, immoral, and that would be corrupt, and that would be deceitful. I would not use his name for any kind of financial gain, and I know that unfortunately in this world people don't know how to differentiate between truth and a lie anymore, and I think because they're so invested in gossip and slander. So my voice here, as sincere as it is, there are so many that can't hear the truth in what I say. There's sincerity in my tone. But if I got on here and I started speaking lies, in the most charming, almost charismatic tone, I promise you the hordes would come. because we don't have a world, unfortunately, that's in a very healthy place. So when it comes to social media, there's a lot of sick individuals that are online. There are a lot of manipulative and criminal individuals that are online, and they'll use any celebrity and any person to make a living. And, that's unfortunate because YouTube is not regulating these channels, not regulating themselves. They pretend to care. They put a report button up, but you really can't report anything at all, So, you have these channels that have a lot of fake news and fake information. So I'm so sorry that you who want the truth are being pulled in to all these different directions, and you don't know what's true anymore because you've had so many people tell you so many lies. But I promise you, as God is my witness, I promise you, like within a matter of days, everything, everything's going to become very clear. Everything. And I can't tell you any more than that. I know I've been posting and posting about it, but I just want to not say anymore because unfortunately there've been so many delays and so many hiccups because of the interference, the interference and corruption of people, corruption of even his attorneys especially, which I've posted about. And unfortunately I've had to work around them and behind their back, and I've had to let King go in one direction while I go in another because just legally, of course, personally we're on the same page, but legally what you see is not what is really happening. Just know that King is a very smart man. Despite what people think, they might think, oh well, he's lost the cases and he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's a very smart man, and I think he knows exactly what I'm doing, and he supports it 110%. But we've had to go in different directions legally because let's just say that the justice system in America is so corrupted that if once you put something in emotions or in the motions that is misrepresented by your attorneys, like, for example, that he is in a relationship that he's not and he's engaged to people that he's not, once you do that, then you can be held responsible for what they've done. And, I say that because at this point, he's still, until he's home, which, I'm not going to speak about that because that to me is going to be the surprise that I can't even mention. But until he's home, there is that vulnerability because, as you've noticed, the people that have been following the cases, you'll know that the corruption has been so intense. The evil within the legal system in America has been so intense. They persecuted him, not prosecuted him. And when I say persecuted, they've gone after him maliciously. And when I say that is they've ignored the facts, they've ignored the truth, and intentionally. We've had people writing to the prosecutors. We've had people writing to all kinds of people trying to get the truth out. But the fact that people are ignoring it, this is what tells me that we really all need to just pray and all really need to find, our connection to God back. Because I tell you what, the way that the world is going, especially with social media, I've had to pull up people around me and say, stop listening to that channel. Don't listen to that channel. Not just about him, about other topics as well. The truth is not out there as clear as it is about anything. You have to honestly disconnect from this world almost, because and the only way you can actually plug into the truth right now is by having a sincere relationship with God. I cannot stress enough that I don't just post about God. I don't just post about going to church and spiritual matters. This is very serious. We're in a real crisis of the soul, and I don't know where this world will get to, because if we don't change, something's going to give, and I don't know whether we'll implode or what will happen, but there is so many lies and so many people not wanting the truth in any sense. Thank God I was able to find people that do. And that is all I can say. I've been able to find people that do want the truth, that were seeking the truth, that can help, that will help and that are helping and that are doing something and have taken action and immediate action, because it's at the point where, it's so when it comes to the RKelly brand, there is so much pollution, there is so much confusion, there is so much misinformation that barely anything you hear is truth anymore. And, sometimes I come across these channels that were once supporters of him, and I see them supporting Tasha K. I see them gossiping and even like supporting people that would openly slander them because they're just bored out of their brains. They're at home, they want some stimulation, they want the excitement of being part of something. So they'll sit there and they'll get involved and they'll support all the wrong causes. And they don't realize that the drama and the gossip that, the channels that they're supporting, you actually do end up attracting that negativity into your life if you're not careful. That's why I'm so selective about what I watch and what I listen to. So anything you're watching about RKelly and the RKelly brand and the name, just listen with your heart, not just with your ears, and not just with the excitement of, oh, I'm part of this group, this community of people. And because the community can be toxic, and it can even be toxic to your life. I've heard of people ending up in prison just being a part of the wrong community online, and they'll attach the RKelly name to that, which is what I have a problem with, because these people have nothing to do with him. If you end up in prison because you've not respected the law, and you've been disobedient, and you've been reckless, and you've been out of control, and you've not listened to me, and you've continued on fighting with people that you should have just disconnected from and point blank years ago. If you end up in a situation like that, don't blame us. Don't blame King. Don't blame the RKelly brand. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to take yourself out of that situation. Don't put it on him, and don't connect him to any of these people. He's not a criminal. King has never been a criminal. He's an R&B singer. He's an icon. He's a legend. But never in his life has he been a criminal. And that's the distinction between him and all of these people online. You can make anybody a criminal. The world is so corrupt at the moment that you can take an innocent person and make them a criminal, not by fact, but by rumor and gossip alone, by slander alone. And they can be the most innocent person that you know. So we have to be careful. We're in a crisis of the soul here, where people, unfortunately, don't know what is love, what is kindness, and what is truth. And I think that I wish I could tell people more, and I wish more people were interested. Like, even when he's home, what I know for a fact, even when he's home, people are not going to be interested, because I'll tell you why. Because the stories that they've been telling about him that are not true at all, and all of them are not true, I would tell you that much. The stories that people have been telling about him that are not true, which is literally almost every channel I've ever watched about him, every YouTuber, every person who's spoken out about him, the stories are not true. And when he's home, people are not going to care. And I tell you why they're not going to care: because the truth is not as interesting, because people don't want to hear that he's in a healthy relationship of 5 years. They don't, with me, of course, they don't want to hear that he is not abusive. They don't want to hear he's not a criminal. They don't want to hear that he has nothing to do with children or underage people. They don't want to hear that there were no videos of him with a child ever. They collected up hundreds and hundreds of his iPads and his computer systems and all of this stuff in storage, and not a single image or video of him with a child. What they had was a doctored tape, one doctored tape. After all of that slander, there were tapes of him with children, and all that slander, there was one doctored tape with actors in it. Actors that were published as extorters of him, many years ago. And that one doctored tape, which ended up in a back alley with Michael Avenatti and Kim Fox, and others colluding because they believe, like, how can you, in all your senses, I just want to ask these people who continue to perpetuate this, oh, he was on the tape. How can you, with all your sense of sensibility and intelligence, reason that one videotape of a person, of a very famous person who has been very publicly extorted and blackmailed for many years and stalked and obsessed over, how can people reason that that one tape was not edited? In our 2024 technology, where we edit everything, even in the 80s and 70s, we were editing videos. I don't understand the level of intelligence that goes on in our society, that people just take what they see as fact, and I think that that's half of the reason why he's in prison, is because there are people that are in the legal system, in the justice system in America, that are not intelligent at all. I don't know how they got their jobs. I don't know how they got their positions. It's like they're giving anybody a job in the justice system in America, because the level of intelligence I've witnessed and I've seen over these years is very low, very low. I mean, you could pull a person from the streets and put them in the courtrooms and have them represent some of these people. That's how low the intelligence of these people are. And honestly, I just find that this channel here, our channel, thank God we have our channel here, because this is the only place that you'll find any level of intelligence, unfortunately, when it comes to him. And I think when it comes to a lot of topics, unfortunately, and I rarely boast about anything to do with me, but this is something I can't stress enough, because I've been shocked. I've been shocked by the level of lack of intelligence, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether people are just not investing in their own intelligence and their own development, their own spirituality and all these things that make you intelligent, because intelligence isn't just intellect. It's not just being able to speak as I'm speaking to you. It's not just about communication. You have to understand there's trickery. People can be conniving and charming and be great communicators, but have zero intelligence. Intelligence isn't just a communication skill. It's not just being able to add things up. It's not just being able to read the law and quote back the law to people. It's not what you know. It's not how many little facts you know about things. That's not intelligence. There are so many different levels of intelligence, and including emotional intelligence, which is one of the highest levels of intelligence you can have. When you have emotional intelligence, you reason from an intellectual place that's much higher than the average person. So, I've been blessed, King's been blessed with a certain level of intelligence that unfortunately a lot of people don't have. And that's why we're in this position right now, where we've been in this position and going round and round in circles, because people are not intelligent. People are not smart. People have lack of intelligence, are stupid even, are completely without. That's the saddest thing about all of this, is because had there been intelligent people that were attached to these cases, we had we had one out of all the attorneys, one good attorney, and unfortunately we let him go. And I'll talk about him later on with King in an interview we're going to be doing. But We had one good attorney out of all of them. These are people that are book smart. You know, when somebody tells you that they're book smart, just because they're an attorney, even if they have an award, even if they're online and they're a super attorney, I want to tell you, I want to stress to you, that does not mean they are intelligent. It does not mean they're not corrupt either. You know, and you can have intelligence but not be, but also be corrupt. That's also, two things can be correct. You can be intelligent and also corrupt. I'm sorry I'm not showing my face because I am so exhausted. I've kind of, been doing a lot, and so I'm not showing my face because I'm not ready for it, but you will see my face very soon. And, I've made plenty of videos with my face, for all of those people for years who said, when are we going to see your face? This woman doesn't show her face. It's all an excuse not to believe me. It's all an excuse. It's all an excuse to take away the attention that should be coming from this channel on his truth and on his freedom, his real freedom, what's really happening about his release, not the appeal, but his real freedom, what's really happening, how he's really coming home. And, it's to take away attention from that. Anyone who can discredit me for stupid reasons, like, oh, she's not showing her face, oh, we've never seen him mention her. I've put all that evidence on here of him calling up and him trying to validate, trying to support me in every direction with his attorneys, with people online, with all that he could do. But he gave up eventually and realized people are as stupid as I've told him they are, as corrupt as I've told him they are. I told King, I said, don't do it anymore. I don't want you mixing with these people because they don't have any honesty and morality. They're going to take your story. They'll take whatever you do for me. They're going to twist it around so they'll get the attention for their own channels and build up their own channels because people are that desperate. People are that desperate for money. They're that desperate for, to, make money off of his name, and they're going to swindle anybody and in any way they can. And, I've experienced it. I've experienced it for now, well, how long have we been? I've been online for at least 3 years. And I've experienced all kinds of sabotage, all kinds of people spreading falsehood about me, and spreading things that King never said and his attorneys never said and never ever said to them, and twisting words that his attorneys have said to mean something else, mean whatever they want it to mean. And all of it is because they just want attention for themselves. So they'll use the RKelly brand under the guise of charity and supporting him, just for attention for themselves. And you can see by the views on this channel, you can see by the follows compared to people that are fake and fraudulent. And I want to stress to you this, and I've said it time and time again, I don't want to mention names because I don't want to get into anything online. I don't want to attach myself to anybody online, besides our channels, besides King and my channels. But there are individuals that are claiming to be related to him. There is one individual, he's not related to him, and he's been misusing, King's name. And, this truth is going to come out along with the other individuals I'm seeing that are trying to attach to his brothers and relatives and anybody that's around him. It's still happening. And, unfortunately, I can't do, like, there's only so much you can do. What my perspective is, as long as I keep doing what I'm focused, is as long as I stay on the path and stay on in the direction I've been going and with what I know is the truth, then these people will fade away, because there will be no choice within a matter of days. They won't have any choice. I've been praying so hard, and I don't want to say much more because I feel like, my mother gave me some really great advice about that. Just, how not to actually give away too much because there is a lot of evil energy, a lot of malevolent people online, a lot of malevolent people in general, and they will they will twist everything I say. They will use everything I say for their own benefit. And I've never seen more evil than that which is around celebrities. Particularly the higher you get, the bigger you are, as he is, and he is very huge as a celebrity. I feel like the more evil is drawn to you. And I think the Bible was right when it said, and you know, people took it the wrong way when it said it's impossible for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's like a, you know, a needle, you know, and all of that. But I think that, you know, from what I gathered from that scripture, I think that God meant that, you know, fame and money does attract a lot of evil, and it attracts a lot of good and power in changing lives and, you know, promoting change, but it also attracts the opposite of that, which is evil characters. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there is both goodness and evil, and we can't do anything about that, because evil is going to always be present as long as human beings have choice, have the will of choice, and have freedom. Because freedom, unfortunately, freedom is such a powerful thing, but it can be misused and abused. And freedom can mean, for some, abusing your power, and for others, abusing your right to freedom. You know, because these freedoms that we have in the West that we take for granted, that women can work and do whatever they want and pursue any careers, and they can actually chase celebrities from city to city, and have sexual freedom. Women have that sexual freedom. That freedom that both men and women have can become an evil in itself, because it can become the very catalyst for, you know, situations like this. You know, so I want to stress to you that, you know, all of this, you know, I think freedom comes at a cost. You know, I think that if you don't value your freedom, if you don't value why you're here, I think sometimes, and you don't understand it, you can misuse your freedom for the wrong reasons. You know, don't, just because we have freedom, you know, doesn't mean that we should misuse it. I mean, there's a scripture in the Bible that says everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And I always think about that. I think that, you know, just because something is okay to do, something is right, you know, is your right to do it, doesn't mean that it's going to benefit you or everybody. So I think that I try to live according to that. Now, you know, I just wanted to get online to say thank you. I don't want to stay on here for too long. Um, I think people are floating in and out, and that's fine. It's kind of an odd time that I've decided to do this, and I understand some people are sleeping, some people are just, you know, doing their own thing, and, you know, I'm sure most people, yeah, anyway, it's probably the wrong time to be doing this live, but I really didn't want to, like, get a lot of just, I guess, bushwatchers in here. I guess I just wanted to spread some good positive energy online, because there is so much negativity. So please take this as the encouragement you need to not follow other channels when it comes to RKelly and the brand. Don't follow any other channels. I promise you, there is no other channel that's going to show you what's going to happen to him next. And don't even listen to his attorney, Bond. You know, don't listen to Bonjean at all. I'm sorry, I have to stress that, and I can speak on my behalf. I'm not speaking on King's behalf, when I say that. But King, I've already spoken about that. How I've had to kind of let King, in one sense, just go in that direction for a minute, because at least what I'm trying to say is this, you know, when he's over there with all of that stuff, the appeal and all of that, people are really distracted by that. People are really invested in that, and it gives me the space to do the real work, and to do to actually instigate the real plan of what we're doing. So, and I'm just letting the people on this channel in on that, because, you know, some of you have the sense to actually get what I'm saying. You know, I speak sometimes in, you know, backward ways because I can't be direct. I've tried to be direct, and I found myself in really deep trouble because people would take it and, you know, twist my words or whatever. So I found that now I'm going to not say much. I'm going to let God speak. I'm going to let God show you what I've been doing, and um, show you his power, and show you through faith what he can do. And in that, it's going to shed light on the others and all the others that are corrupted and corrupting and corrupted this case and corrupted his story and corrupted his life. Because the truth will always shine out through God. There's not much I need to say, because God is going to show you all what's going to happen next when it comes to him. And it's not through Bonjean, I promise you that. Because God doesn't work with corruption. God doesn't work with people that lie and who ignore the truth. And you know, I've been very clear about that, you know, my messages to Bonjean are messages back and forth for some time. And, you know, what happened with that and how she corrupted this case and his story. And I hold her responsible for him being found guilty, to be honest, because she had the truth, but she decided to run with a lie or lies from Greenberg that were transferred onto her. And I can say that confidently because I have the evidence to back that. You know, no one else can say things like that, because, you know, I would not speak out of turn. But if I didn't have those conversations with her, stressing to her the importance of um, of advocating for King and representing King only with the truth of my story with him. You know, the fact that he is my partner, he is my boyfriend. We've been here 5 years together. There's been no one else. You know, that the interns were interns. Those two girls were interns. Those two young women, not girls, were interns. Not his lovers, not his friends, not his girlfriends, and definitely not his fiancée. You know, but I can't say, you know, I have to keep quite low key about that at the moment, because until he's safe and home, I've just got to stay on my lane, stay in my lane, and not attach what I'm doing to him. Because, you know, with all the corruption in this case, all of the corrupt characters of evil malevolence who don't have the soul to care about him or the truth, or about innocent lives being imprisoned for no reason, I have to be careful to protect him. I have to be the one to sacrifice myself temporarily, and you know, allow people to think that I'm a fraud, allow people to think that I'm making up stories, and allow my channel not to grow as fast or whatever, because I could go to the media. I could actually, you know, go to the media and with him even, because I know he would do anything for me. I could actually convince him for us to go to the media with our story. But for the fact that there are so many corrupt people in this case, so many, even within our own fence, you know, and it's always been the case with him. Within his own home, he's had corruption. Within his own home, he's had Judases everywhere. And when you have that, when you have that, when that is going on, you have to be careful about who and what you say and what you do. You have to move in a different way. And that's what I've been doing, is moving in a different way. I hope you can hear me. I don't know if anybody can hear me, but anyway. So, yeah, I've had to move in a different way because I have wanted to make sure that he is safe more than anything. The people that have the power right now to release him home are doing that, is all I can say to you. And they are the people that have the power to release him and to drop these charges. But the people that don't have the power are squabbling around, exchanging fake and false misinformation about him, you know, within the court system, within, you know, all kinds of motions and all of that, and online. So, you know, when you have the power, when you, like, this is the thing. When you know where you stand in some situation, You don't have to be loud. You don't have to, dance on tabletops, and you don't have to shout, look at me, listen to me, pay attention to me. Look what I've got. Look, I found his brother. Look who I've attached to now. And, I don't need to stimulate you intensely with excitement and fear in order to get your attention. All I have to say is God is going to show you what is going to happen next, because I can't say it anymore. I've said it in so many different ways in this live even, and people that understand what I've been saying over these years now know that this is the time. And I can't stress to you enough how much you just have to be diligent. You have to be diligent online. You have to protect yourself from false information, because false information can get you into trouble. You listening to false information about him can lead you into supporting the wrong people. When you support the wrong people, you waste your money, you waste your energy, you waste your time, and you waste your good heart, if you have a good heart to care. And so you have to be diligent enough to see through people, see through their smiles, see through the charisma, see through what they're trying to do and how they're trying to manipulate you into following their channel, how they're trying to get you to follow their channel and just subscribe and give you their money in cash apps. None of these 3 channels of his are monetized. And I've done that intentionally for a reason, because I can honestly say I'm not here to make any money from this. This is not about making money. It's about giving us a platform, King and I a platform, for which we can actually share the truth. And, he can speak through me and also speak on his own, but also, of course, I'm his keyboard. But he can actually tell his story. And when you don't have a platform to do that, this is the thing, whenever you have a situation, a traumatic situation, you need an outlet for dealing with that. You need some way of being able to heal that, and the only way to do that is actually by expressing how you feel. And so if you can't express how you feel, if you feel muzzled because you've been on one side by your attorneys, you've been misrepresented so much that you've been swamped under other people's lies, even on your own team, then you need an outlet like his 3 platforms here to speak the truth, where you can share the truth and just be yourself. And I think it's been so therapeutic for me to have these channels, because I was feeling, before I opened the channels, I was on Twitter, I think, and I think I was on Instagram. I tried Instagram. Those platforms didn't work for me in spreading his truth, because I found on Twitter there was a lot of a lot of stalking going on, a lot of slandering and defamation of my name and of him. And I was getting quite frustrated by it, because I had one particular individual who continued to make new accounts and try to follow me and spread malicious lies, or a sick woman. And obviously, because anybody who does that to a stranger is completely sick in the head. And she would say things like, oh, King, RKelly says he doesn't know her. His attorneys say they don't know her. And these are things that people without the intelligence or reasoning of mind and their own independent thought would believe, because somebody uses an RKelly photo as their profile photo. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm just stressing to you, just because somebody uses King's photo as their profile photo, don't just assume they're on our side. Don't assume that they care about him. Don't assume even that they know anything about him. And don't assume that you can trust them. This is how you get into trouble, is because you trust people who put on the persona of supporting him. They use his profile photos. They use his name in their video titles. Doesn't mean that they support him. Listen to what they say. Listen to their words. Listen to their verbiage. Listen to their tone. Listen to their energy. That's how you know you have a supporter of RKelly. Because an RKelly supporter is not going to say anything bad about him. They're not going to demonize him, and they're not going to accuse him of being attached to the wrong people. They're not going to accuse him of things. And a true RKelly supporter is following this channel and understands the truth, you know. But anybody who speaks badly against me, I promise you, is not on his side and doesn't know him. And scamming people out of their money. And it happened, they self, let me see, I'm just trying to read what you're saying, Carolyn. And it's not right. I hope you take their asses down. Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, you know what? I think God's going to do that for us, Carolyn. Like, because you know how many people are doing that. And I'm so sorry for those of you who have contributed to the wrong channels. And I really am going to say this, like, there's no one who can, I guess, take revenge like God, you know, because God says revenge is mine, you know, because, you know, of course, we're going to take the right people to court and we're going to sue their butts all that we can for all the money in the world, because we've been through so much hell. So, of course, there are people that are on our to-do list. But of course, you know, we can't sue everybody. Do you know how many people have been defaming him? How many people have been using his name? So we have to pick and choose our battles, you know, and because otherwise we'll spend all our money taking people to court and all our energy and time taking people that don't even have the money to pay us. So we've got to pick people that really did contribute to this, that really were. And you all know the main ones, Disney, Lifetime, you know, the main ones, Disney, Lifetime were the top picks for us. And of course, you know, you've got your Tasha K's. And so they're the three I would say I can mention confidently, but there might be more. There might be news stations as well, CNN and others that put out, and TMZ that were strongly saying that Joycelyn and Azrael were sex slaves. You know, TMZ, I've kept all of that on record. You know, I've kept all of that on record, like, you know, in a folder of all of these people defaming him, and confidently too, without any shame, calling Joycelyn Savage and Azrael sex slaves, sex slaves, sex slaves, not interns, sex slaves. So this is how it all started. And then people got into their heads, oh, these two. Oh, you know what I mean? So I've got people on our to-do list. We've got people on our hit list. But we're not going to like worry about these little YouTube channels that are just, you know, look, because they're going to be revealed for who they are. Like when people see us together and we do our interview and, you know, and King stresses, you know, who he was affiliated with. And the thing about it is we've got to discuss a lot about how we can talk about that too, because you know, we don't want to create more and more chaos online. We just want people to go away and live their lives and just leave him alone. We just want people to stop fighting and bickering and causing chaos and drama around his name, and using people, innocent people, individuals online who really care, using them to make a living. And I know some individuals, and you know, people that are calling themselves, you know, his mentor, like what he's meant, like that he mentored them or something like that. I've heard of one individual who claims that he was like a father or whatever. All of these people, like, you know, there's another person calling himself his godson. King doesn't have a godson, for God's sake. For God's good sake, please don't listen to these people. I made so many videos about it. And yeah, so like King doesn't have a godson, and like I just don't want to mention people and pull people out. You know, I'm just saying, just don't invest in it. Don't invest in it. They won't tell you that, you know, the truth. They won't tell you the truth, and we can't do anything about it because there's only so much we can do. We have to focus our energy in the right direction, which is just making sure he's home safely, making sure the truth comes out, making sure we address the corruption at a higher level, in a political sense, because that's where it all started with the Kim Foxes and the Avenattis. And these were people that wanted political positions. You know, Kim Fox wanted a re-election, and Michael Avenatti, of course, wanted to run for president. But now he sits in jail as a fraud, a convicted fraud. So these are people that were part of this beginning. And now we're at the end of this, and these are our targets. These are our targets to address publicly, because unfortunately, until we address the big ones, the little people underneath that are going to keep going. Corruption starts at the top level, and then it falls down underneath to people underneath. It doesn't start down and work its way up. It always works its way down. And if you have corrupt leaders, what do you expect of the people? If they get support for their corruption, if, you know, I can run to a DA with a fake tape and she doesn't say, well, wait a second, what if this person's trying to blackmail? What if this is all like, you know, just about, you know, what if this isn't as I see it? You know, a DA that doesn't say that, you know, and doesn't do the research, then what can we, like, we have to address those issues, like in a parliament or in a senate or in a political situation, because unfortunately other people will also fall into this, like, they've used King's cases as a precedence all over the world, not just in the US. I see these cases coming up all over the world now. Places that weren't corrupt, places that weren't biased, places that weren't criminalizing people for no reason, that were once presuming people innocent and now presuming people guilty based on stories. And King's cases set a bad precedence for that. And of course, that has to be addressed in a world situation where other people in the world get the message that this isn't the way. We're not people here to, we all have a right to be presumed innocent, and we all have a right to that, no matter what we've done, no matter what we're accused of. And until we're proven by courts, by the court system, to be guilty. But even then, even when you're proven guilty in court, we all know now, those who follow these cases, that there's appeals, that there are motions, that there are all of these other steps that make it possible for you to actually clear yourself of the charges. But unfortunately, people see, like, somebody going to court and being found guilty as the end step. You know, but it's not, because if you've got a pool of jury members that have already been polluted by a show that was. And by the way, let me just say this. I don't know whether most of you know that Surviving RKelly was made by the same people that made Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So they know nothing about making documentaries, only about making reality TV shows. They'd never made a documentary in their lives. They were reality TV show makers. So you can see how they took that reality TV situation, the appearance of reality, and made it into a documentary, and how they messed up big time. So when you talk about us, you know, like going after people, these are the people we will be addressing in a legal form. You know, because we're not about the criminal activity. We're not those people. We're not, you know, gangsters and mobsters, and we don't have people in the dark that are going to take people out with guns. We are Christian people. Me and King are Christians. We fear God. There's no way in this world I would get into any of the underground darkness and dark activity. You know, so when people say, oh, he's goons, or all of this is just things in their head, malicious, disgusting, evil things in their heads, when they connive up stories that King was behind anything, you know, and because King doesn't have that mentality, like, of, you know, a mobster. Or he's an R&B singer. He was singing love songs, for God's sake, and love-making songs, not songs about killing people like some gangsters and others, you know. And by the way, you know, I really wonder how people are going to address that, you know, especially in the Black community, how they're going to actually address the lack of, you know, attention to all of this music that promotes killing each other. You know, Black people are so much more supportive of that than they do, you know, an R&B singer who is only singing about love and love songs. I don't understand the disconnect in the Black community, how they support, you know, people that have shot people. Like I think of people like 50 Cent, for example, who was an actual gang member and who actually has a criminal history. And, you know, they will support someone like that to the ends of the earth. But the second you have someone like King, who's never done anything wrong against anybody, just a vicious line of rumors that starts from Aaliyah, how they, but I think what it is, I mean, it's a psychology, and these sociopaths are not, they're stupid, but they know the psychology and weaknesses of human nature because they are weak people. So they know that is the second you say, you mention children or anyone underage, people are going to be triggered enough to act. People are going to be triggered enough not to get off of somebody's neck or back, because that is horrendous. And it's a horrendous evil in any culture to abuse a child, abuse a woman, abuse, you know, an underage person. So these sociopaths that were part of all of this corruption and this conniving and conspiracy, they knew this, and they knew that if they just drop that in, and if they use the Aaliyah story and they push that, and then that assumption that because what they did, they used King's silence about the Aaliyah story to get people to believe that this tape was real about him, and with these actors, they actually confessed that it wasn't him, and it was actually attached to a blackmail and extortion scheme. So like they just knew what to do. They knew that, okay, well, with the Leah story, and unfortunately, you know, his attorneys back then had told him to stay quiet about that and not to talk about that. And King, in his respect for Aaliyah's memory, because when Aaliyah passed, you know, King was too kind and too respectful and too loving of even her. I'm sorry, because, you know, Aaliyah was a beautiful woman, and she was very talented, but his respect for Aaliyah got him here. His over respect, his over admiration for her as a person and her memory is what got him here. Because had he spoken, and had he actually, you know, spoken about the people that, you know, manipulated him into a situation that led to his like his reputation being soiled, while hers was elevated, and now she's she's a musical martyr. You know, that's the difference, the extinction. And the people that did that were her uncle, of course, you all know. And publicly, you know, her uncle's son has said publicly that no one would work with Aaliyah without, you know, King back in those days. So they put Aaliyah anywhere he was, and they didn't care. They really weren't thinking, oh, you know, and that's the corruption in them. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was, you know, abuse going on in that family, like, you know, underage or sexual abuse within Leah's family. Because if you can't see that situation becoming bad just on the exterior, then what were you doing? Like, if you're like, you've got a 15-year-old niece of yours and you're pushing her into this adult world that she's not ready for. She may have been musically, like, you know, her own talent, but she wasn't ready for this adult world. And you've got her uncle and her family who are just greedy, money hungry, immoral, unscrupulous people, you know, and pushing her into that world and pushing her onto, you know, into King's world as a 15-year-old going on 16, and making King work with, because, you know, of course, King didn't have a choice. King waited 10 months, almost a year, to be signed with Barry. You know, that was his dream. He finally gets the dream. Now he's in a situation where every musician knows how much their management and their record companies manipulate them to doing whatever they want them to do, especially when you're new and that's your first record deal. You know, you can't say no. What are you going to do? You've been sleeping on the beach. Now what are you going to do? Like, King was sleeping on the beach before that. Now he has a record deal and his dream's about to come true. You know, is he going to say no to mentoring Aaliyah? No, because first of all, King wasn't thinking anybody was going to think that he was abusing her, or that, you know, anything immoral was going on. And back in those days, you know, the times were different. There were a lot of celebrities that were using, a lot of people that were using other celebrities to prop themselves up. There was a lot of fake relationships, celebrity relationships, like just media relationships. You'd have people that would just show up at award ceremonies together, so people would think they're in a relationship because that would boost their public persona. And there was a lot of that going on when I was growing up. So most of the time you'd turn around and say, oh, that's not, is that relationship even real? Because people would use each other, celebrities or upcoming celebrities, I should say, would use other celebrities to promote their movie, their music, whatever it is. So that was the environment. And I think people forget that, because now we're in a new environment where people are not doing that anymore. Because back then we didn't have social media to promote, where celebrities could promote themselves, where individuals had their own platform to promote themselves. They had to use other people as a vehicle to be famous. So they would find, like, Aaliyah, in King's instance, Aaliyah's family saw King as an opportunity for her to become famous, an opportunity for her music to be shown to the world. And that's how it was done back then, and it was immoral of them, because they weren't thinking about the repercussions. Because even back then, it was a little bit like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Because people didn't understand it. People didn't understand what was going on behind the scenes. That there was no relationship. It was just to promote her, to get her famous. And, and they used King to do that. They were very clear about it. They even said it on radio station, and if I need to pull that up as my receipts, as our receipts, I will pull up the nephew saying no one would work with Aaliyah without RKelly. So now we're in the world where people think that it was RKelly that was using Aaliyah. No, her family were using, I wouldn't say Aaliyah. Aaliyah was too young and naive to understand what was going on herself. And of course, she was herself starry-eyed. She wanted to be an R&B singer for as long as she could remember. So of course, with the opportunity to work with somebody as big as RKelly, to be around him, and of course, she would have developed a crush on him. All the women I've known that have, been around him had some level of feelings for him. And that's what confused the whole thing, because Aaliyah was not going to ever say no to that situation, because, she's in the presence of this handsome, very successful, very popular, king of R&B, and I think, what is she going to say? No, I'm not going to work with him. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing. Aaliyah was not going to say anything, and King couldn't say anything either, or couldn't make a different move at that time, because that was his boss. When your boss says something to you, when your boss says, take those boxes out, or your boss says, do this paperwork, or, and you're employed by them, that's an abuse of power. Like if they start telling you to do criminal activity, but they don't make it sound like it's criminal. And it wasn't criminal. I mean, back then, of course, there's criminal activity that they did, but when they get you to do things that are not immorally good, for you, for your reputation, then that's what happens, I think, because you're under their control, you're under their power, you're under their, and he was 26 then. So he was a young man. He wasn't, 30 or 40 like now, mature enough to decipher. Young men, they say mature, like, I mean, that's what Joycelyn and Azrael's age around about now, and they're still calling them girls. So why don't they give King that same level of, like, understanding, where they say, well, he was 26 back then and he made some bad decisions. He wasn't, that's 26, that's 6 years from being an adult, really. That's only 6 years in from being an adult, and you don't know much about life, and that's your first recording deal. You're vulnerable. You're vulnerable to the vultures, and he was vulnerable to the vultures then, and he's still vulnerable to the vultures now, even in his 50s, because people cannot leave him alone. And they will suck him dry, because he's such a kind, giving character. He's got such a good heart, and he does not, he's got the innocence of, like, of a child, and, like, in terms of his heart, not the, obviously the exterior. He's a real man, but I'm talking about his heart. He doesn't have, the evil that other people have, the vindictiveness, the manipulativeness of other people, and he doesn't have the vengeance, or the the planning and scheming. But at the same time, what polluted and confused the story is that he has also had, very, huge love life, when it comes to women. And so people can easily attach that to abuse, of sexual abuse. Any man any man, I wouldn't say woman, but any man that has had a lot of lovers can be attached to any abuse story. And that's the unfortunate thing, because we are very, very closed as a society. We say that we're very open about sex and sexuality and liberation and all of that, but to a certain point, because we will also judge a person according to that and attach him to abuse easily, because we'll say, oh, well, if he's capable of having so many lovers, then of course, he might, he might go into other areas of sexuality. He might, delve into the darkness of child abuse. That's never been King's character, never been his interest. He would never require people to show ID. And you would not have all these hordes of women, including Azrael and Joycelyn Savage, getting implants and getting, breast enhancements. God bless them. But, trying to be more mature looking, if that was the case, if he was attracted to somebody pubescent or an adolescent, because, they would, of course, been his cup of tea from the beginning, and he never even went near them. So even after all of that, that work that they did to themselves. So there you go. People just create their own stories from fiction, from nothing, just nothing. And it doesn't matter what you say, even with the proof and evidence, people need to believe in salacious stories, I think, because it makes them feel a certain way, makes them feel like that their life isn't as crap as it is, or as bad as it is. And unfortunately, it just is. Sometimes their lives are bad, and in fact the abusers are in their community, but they don't want to look in their communities for these monsters. So it's much easier to go and look at people like King and other celebrities and go, oh, well, that must be the monster that I've been looking for all my life. No, it's not. You have to sit in your own neighborhood and look around you. There are children being abused in your schools, in your churches, in your home even, and people don't want to face the monsters there. So that's what we're dealing with. People don't want to face the monsters in their own lives and in their communities. And even as within our legal system, in the legal system in America, they don't want to face those people. They don't want to go and collect up those people, those abusers. And there are children sitting there being abused. There are children that are being viciously, sexually, physically abused, dying every other day, children and women. But here we are, we're wasting millions of tax dollars persecuting an R&B star, for God's sake, because because they have this belief that if they persecute him and not prosecute, but persecute him, that their careers will advance, and their careers will take off. And, to be honest, that's what some of them probably got promotions from, winning the cases. And some of them probably got, taps, pats on the back. Congratulations, well done. You did it. You're fantastic. And Me Too would have come saying, bravo. And back then they got a lot of accolades from winning the cases against King. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, in my view. It doesn't come down to justice. It doesn't come down to protecting children, women, and underage people. It comes down to winning cases and selfish greed, because none of these people really cared about these children and these Black women and these, that are being really abused. I mean, I can't go online, on internet, on YouTube, without seeing the death of another Black woman, and by the hands of an abusive boyfriend. And they're not going after those people. They're not promoting these people. Me Too themselves, like, where have they gone with all of that? You know what I mean? So Me Too time's up. I mean, was it just a fad? Do we is abuse just a time? Is it just 2 years? Is that 2 years of abuse? Is that the only time frame within which abuse takes place? And is it only within the celebrity circles? Come on, these people are really just making a joke of abuse really at this stage, because abuse is a very serious issue. you know, and it should be it should be taken as a very serious issue. When I say that is, you don't arrest somebody just on a whim because you feel triggered by a documentary made by reality TV show makers. What you do is you sit and you try and find out. They didn't even do any proper investigation. They arrested him and then investigated, which is what people are doing around the world. And they're arresting people and then investigating and then going into court with wishy-washy, dodgy, shoddy evidence and doctored and false evidence, and then presenting it as truth to a triggered jury that's already been triggered by a documentary, to a triggered, you know, to triggered judges, to triggered people. They're presenting all of these. They're taking advantage of the energy and of the time, you know, to falsely convict an innocent man so that they can be re-elected, so that they could, you know, be promoted, so that they can advance. Meanwhile, children are getting abused. Meanwhile, adolescents are falling out of school and getting into trouble and into dark circles of trafficking, real trafficking. There are cases of real trafficking, not of women chasing celebrities from city to city with fake ID and wanting a sexual relationship with a celebrity older than them. That's just not trafficking. That's not trafficking. What that is stupidity to call that trafficking. It's absolute stupidity within the legal system to take a story like that of women that chase a celebrity for 30 years, some of them 10 years. Joronda Pace chased around King for 10 years, a stalker, a pure stalker with fake ID. She tried every damn thing. You know, she broke into his home, taking photos on his bed. You know, she goes on one reality TV documentary and now she's his victim, not her victim. This is the stupid times that we are in. This is the stupid times that we're dealing with. These are the stupid people we're dealing with. The people who take that story, you know, people that are trained within the legal system that are supposed to protect King. They're supposed to protect people like King from stalkers like her, from sociopaths and narcissists, and from these psychopathic people that went after King. They're supposed to protect him. But instead of protecting him, they used the legal system and they colluded with these criminals. They colluded. They became part of their conspiracy. They ignored the truth. They turned a blind eye to the truth. Anytime the truth came up, they ignored it because they had to find evidence for what they wanted to win the cases. On both sides, by the way. I'm not even demonizing just the prosecution at this stage. I'm talking about, you know, the attorneys that we employed, apart from one, which was Canik. You know, they were doing the same thing. They're finding evidence for what they wanted to believe and then going with that. That's why we've got nowhere. That's why it's taken so long. I've had to fight this on my own, in my own way, privately, without the attorneys, outside of Bonjean, outside of Greenberg. I've had to take my own measures and I've had to take things into my own hands, begging people, pleading and saying, please listen to me. Showing them evidence, sending them all the proof and evidence of, you know, of what they need to know about our relationship, about these people, about, you know. So yeah, it's not been easy. And when you hear me like talk like this, you got to know I'm exhausted. I've had like 4 years of this, but I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot in me, especially now. You know, especially now, I've got a lot in me to say when this comes out, when this is finally finished, which I can't say when because that would ruin the surprise. But I'll have to just say this, that, you know, not every, you know, I want to encourage people, because this is the thing I really want for people to take from this live. If you're dealing with anything right now, any situation, like even private or public or whatever, and you know your truth, you know the truth, you know what's happened, you know what you're worthy of, you know what is your value, you know all of these things, because that's what God has shown you. Don't let go of that, no matter what people tell you, no matter how many people try to destroy that in you. Don't let go of your worth and value and how much you can do as one person, because you don't need a horde of followers. I didn't need 14,000, 20,000, or 1 million followers on this channel to get King home. Let me just tell you that. I'm going to repeat that. I didn't need 1 million followers on this channel to get King home. That was never the solution. So that's why I never chased followers. I never chased subscribers. I never chased the media presence, because the media were rubbish. I knew the media were not going to help him. They just wanted a story. The media about making money. So when I talk about doing for yourself, if you're in a situation and you think, I've got nobody, nobody's helping me, nobody cares, I just have absolutely nobody, it's just me and God. You know, and I'm, of course, King cared. King and I have been on the same team, like trying to support each other in every way we can under horrendous circumstances, under the most unbearable circumstances. But at the end of the day, King has his hands literally tied. There's only so much he can even do for me to support me. So I've had to do this on my own with God. That's all I've had is God, and support, of course, with my family. You know, I spent a few number of months with my family just getting support, but just finding support where I could. But there's been very little support, because the second you mention his name, you know that what people are going to say. So I only had myself, I only had God. And if you're in that situation, I really want to encourage you, no matter what it is, because I know so many people are alone and feeling like nobody cares, and I don't know my way out of this. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. I don't know who's going to help me. It's like, you know, David and Goliath, you know, just know that you're enough. God can work through you, because you are powerful enough to change any situation just with God. But you need to have faith. You need to have the strongest faith you've ever had in your life sometimes, if your life depends on that situation, you know. And that's why it's important to get your faith strong, because you never know when that time is going to come, when it's going to be tested, when it's going to depend on, your life is going to depend on it, or the person that you love, or your child, or your brother, or somebody else that you love, your partner, your husband, anybody else, your sister, your mother, is going to need you to be that person. Your faith is going to be the one that brings them out of that, and brings yourself out of that. And I'm going to say that much, because if I wasn't a faithful woman, I would not be able to bring my King home alone. And I promise you that that's all I can say, because faith is everything to me. I've always been somebody who believed that God can do anything. And I've always believed in miracles. I've always believed that God is real. And I've been obedient to God as much as I could. I've feared God as much as I could. You know, whenever I've caught myself trying to, you know, ever saying anything bad against somebody, or, you know, I've been that person who catches myself out and says, hang on a sec, God's listening. And I wish more people would do that. More people would be aware of God's presence everywhere they go, because then we wouldn't have the world that we have, you know, where people are hurting others intentionally, you know, and where people, and they don't feel bad about it, and they don't come back to say sorry or to make, you know, amends. You know, and I think that I've always feared God, you know, and I think a fear of God and an obedience to God is going to get you through anything, you know, because, and it's not just about scripture, it's not just about going to church, it's about actually understanding God's nature, God's character, God's promises. You know, Matthew 7 verse 7 says, anything that you ask in prayer will be given to you. So I take what God says literally, and I said, okay, God, you said Matthew 7 verse 7 that you need to bring my King home. And for the first 2 years, I have to confess, I doubted God, and that's why it didn't happen, because for the first 2 years, I doubted my worth even. I let people get into my head, you know, and to make me question my own self, my own heart, my own, you know, value, you know, because, and also King's value to other people. I had all of these fears and these traumatic, you know, emotions I went through, because, you know, I was in so much pain and so much anger and so much frustration. But once I got over that hurdle, and I got to a place where I saw this quote that said, demand what is yours and take back what was taken. I saw that quote and that was everything to me. And I thought, oh my God, that's what I have to do, because I have lost everything. And sorry. And so I said, I've lost everything. I've lost everything. I've had to put everything on hold. I've had to put my studies on hold for some time. I had to do that for some time. I had to sacrifice a lot. I sacrificed financially, sacrificed in every which way I could that you could imagine. Emotionally, I've had to sacrifice being around people, time and happiness and all of these things. And when I read that quote, it made it clear. I was like, wait 1 second. I'm worthy, and God has said I'm worthy, and I'm worth something, and everything, all these things that I've lost, they're mine. King is my partner. King is my boyfriend. And nobody has a right to take him, from this world. No one has a right to take his freedom. No one has a right, not even the government that he's supposed to protect him. They don't have that right. Only God has that right if he's done something wrong, and he has done nothing wrong. When I got that energy, when I got that into my head and into my heart, it was like I was given just the power of life, because I finally got it. I finally got my worth. I was like, okay, I get it, God. I get it. Get what you're trying to say to me and King and I. I always get those two backwards. But yeah, I said, God, I know I finally get what you've been trying to say to King and I, that we are worthy. We need to demand, not ask, not beg anymore, but demand back what is ours. His freedom is his right. They have no right to hold him. He's done nothing. The proof is there. The proof is there. I didn't, when I approached the individuals I did, my final straw was not, please, you need to, finally get this done. It was, I'm done begging. Now you just need to do it, because this is my partner you're holding, and you're holding it against God. That's my partner. That's my love. That's my future. And you cannot hold him anymore. That was what was in my heart. That was in my head. And that's what I said to these people. You have no right to hold him anymore. That's not your right, because you know the truth, and you know he's innocent now, because we've been through this. So you have no right. And if you hold him, let God deal with all of you, because you cannot do it against God's will. And that was the crux of it. That was my final, and that was it. I think. So, because stressing to people, like people who are online, and they don't even have any idea what it means to go through what I've been through, what King has been through. They can just sit online and they can squabble about stupid things. But I promise you, if I put them in my shoes or King's shoes, none of them would survive. I'm surprised that King and I is still standing here. I get online and I'm positive, and I try to stay, like, quiet and out of trouble. But I'm telling you, like, it's just the grace of God that King and I are still alive, because what we've been through, people don't survive. Couples don't survive. Relationships definitely don't survive what we've been through. So, and I have to thank God for that, because without God and that guidance I receive, and my connection to God, and that relationship I've always had since I was young, 12 years old, with God, I wouldn't be here. But not just that, I have to say this. I have to give credit to also, I come from a family of, has been through a lot, and one day I'm going to tell you that story. And I got to spend a lot of time with my mum over Christmas and the New Year, and just delving into her past and her story. And it's amazing how many parallels there are, with King and I, and my dad and my mum, and what they went through. My dad, was imprisoned by a corrupt government overseas. He was an ambassador at the time. He was a diplomat, and he escaped, by the way. And when you hear this corrupt leader's name, you won't. He was you will never find. I think he's comparable to the worst of the worst. But also a lot of people that still love and support this leader. But he was deeply corrupt and corrupted by power more than anything. He was abusing his power, and he had my father falsely arrested and put in prison. This was overseas, and my mum had to go into exile, into hiding, and she survived because she had medical training. That's how she survived. And this is just amazing, uncanny, the parallels. She survived because of her mum was a herbalist. My mum had some medical training and was also a herbalist. But she had to go into exile, into hiding, because they wanted, and with 3 children, by the way, 3 young children. And yeah, and to tell you, I mean, one day I'm going to sit down and I'll get my mum on here and she can tell the story better than I can about how she lost one child in, one of the camps. My father was in prison. She had to find a way to get to my father out of prison. She had to find a way to my father. My father found a way out of prison and found a way, to out of the country. And so when people are trying to understand how, how we end up in Australia. So we were based in Belgium, in Brussels. My father was a diplomat. But he had to go home because there was a death in the family. And during that time at home, he was falsely arrested by the corrupt president at the time and put in prison. And so then began the saga of how I came to Australia. My family came to Australia. But my mum and my dad survived under horrendous situations of like like persecution, literally. And my mum tells the story of one time when soldiers came to get her, and initially I thought it was me, my father, that they came to get, but I think 3 years old. Soldiers came for her, and they'd already put my dad in prison, and they came for her. And apparently, this is what my mum said, that I told the soldiers, "Are you going to take my mum now? What has she done?" And when my mum said that, I said, "Oh my God, I'm still the same person." Nothing has changed. I still say the same thing. I'm like, "What has he done? What has he done?" And she said to me, that saved her life, because the soldiers looked at me and they looked at her and they could not take her because of me. And when she told me that story, oh, and rest in peace to my father, who passed away last year, my beloved father, who I love so deeply. But when she told me that story, I thought, oh my God, I was meant to be here. And I think she said, "You saved my life, and you probably saved your father too. And you were 3 years old when you did it. You demanded to know what they wanted, and you demanded, so, yeah, so I just think, I'm telling this story so that you understand where I come from, the genes I come from, the family I come from. I was prepared for this for a long time. We were political refugees, so I came prepared for, I think God prepared my family and me for a lot. And now we're all thriving, apart from my father, of course, who passed away last year. And yeah, so, but the story is there, and that's my heritage. So coming through that and sitting down with my mum, I think that gave me even more, I think, confidence and encouragement to just keep going, and see this through to the end, because she said to me that she laughed when I told her. I said, Mum, now I'm getting really personal. This is stuff I was going to leave for later, because I was actually going to sit down with my mum and actually introduce you all to her. She's just a phenomenal woman, and with so many stories to tell you. But anyway, when I said to her, Mum, I can't tell you how many people have come against me because, because of who my partner is, and I can't tell you what I've been through with this. Like, it's just been a nightmare. I don't get support from anybody. Because people just don't understand, or they believe what they hear, or and so I've just been on my own. And I said, Mum, what am I, supposed to do about that? And she just said, do you think that anybody wanted me to marry your father? She said that, she went through the same thing with my dad, and she bought it home. She bought it, like she just said that, people came, because my parents are, even though they come from the same country, they're two different tribes. And my father is a Nubi Ugandan. He's a Nubian Ugandan. So originally from Sudan, and my mother is from the West, and they're two different clans of people, two different languages, two different cultures, and um, yeah. So I look at King and I, and I think, here we are. We're two different tribes, literally. Like, he's African American, I'm African Australian. We are two different tribes, and people have a problem with that, and and my mum said, look, they had the same issue with me and me marrying your father, but we had such a great friendship, 3 years, and we had to go through so much during the war together, that, and I saw his heart, I saw, his character, I saw who he really was, I saw so many things, and I saw where we could go together, and what we kind of life we could have. And my mum told me that when she was in Uganda, she had a wish. She just said, one day, and that's why I always say words have power. What you say has power, especially when you let it go and you just trust God. And she just said, one day I'm going to go overseas, and because she used to see things on the TV and go, oh, wow, all these places. And she said, one day I'm going to travel the world and, go overseas. And then and then God put her with my father, who ended up being an international diplomat who got promoted. He wasn't when she met him, but he was a man of great intelligence and a lot of ambition. And during their time, actually, they got promoted the day she found out she was pregnant with me. He got promoted to Belgium, and that's a story in itself. Which so he got promoted to go as an ambassador and diplomat to Belgium. So that's when we flew, literally within a matter of days. We went to Belgium to live, and but yeah, she told me. She's like, my dear, nobody wanted me to marry your father. And and I think, and when I think of my father and I think about his character, and what anything I've ever achieved in life has been because of my parents and my upbringing, because they've showed me the way. They've showed me how to be as a woman, how to be in character, and what direction to take. So anything I've ever done has been because of where I come from, the family I come from, and of course I have a family of brothers and sisters that have good hearts as well, that are good-hearted people and kind, and try to take care of people, and would never do any of the things I've heard that, King's family has done against him. Thank God for that. Thank God that I don't have any of that. because that kind of betrayal, I don't think I could ever have withstood. I'm just too sensitive. But yeah, so anyway, one day you'll get to meet my mother online. I think it's going to be on our channel, you know, the RJ Chicago channel. Um, she's quite funny. She just, my mother is a real businesswoman. She has investment properties everywhere, and um, she's, you know, at the moment overseas in trying to take care of one block of apartments that she owns. So yeah, I think I come from a good family. I come from a good line, a good heritage, and I haven't even told you half of her story of how she survived, how my father got out of prison, with the help of his brother, you know, my uncle Tom, who's still one of my favorite uncles, and he rode like hundreds of miles just to get out away from where he was, and finally got out of the country, and then was given political asylum. So we were technically, first of all, political refugees, or under political protection, not refugees. I would say we're under political protection in Australia. So because his life was always under threat as long as that president and his people were still alive, his supporters. So I know all about corrupt governments. I know what they can do, and I know the damage they can cause people. And you know, when the US claim to be the pillars of democracy, and then you see this happen to King, you actually start to say, well, no, it's just a different type of corruption. It's just under the guise of a different umbrella, and it's painted differently, but it's the same thing. You know, you have, you know, they look down on other countries and say they're corrupt and they need more human rights. Well, no, the US, you know, people need human rights, because there are too many cases I'm hearing every day of people falsely imprisoned. Too many in the US. And I promise you, I've lived in Australia for a long time, and I've traveled the world, and I've never seen it like the US. I've never ever seen such instances. You know, when you go on YouTube and there's somebody who was in prison for 14 years and 30 years and 40 years here, and they've been in prison falsely for something that they never did. It just makes you just go, what is the West if not to be actually, you know, a leader in democracy, actually a leader against corruption, you know, because you can't just speak about that, you know, you have to be about that, as they say in America. But yeah, so I basically, when I talk like this, you can imagine what I've put in my letters and in my correspondence and communication, and what I've spoken to other people that um, you know, behind the scenes, who have the power to release King. And yeah, because I'm not somebody who keeps quiet, and from the time I was 3, I've pretty much spoken what I've wanted to say every single time. And even if it gets me in trouble, I'm going to say it, because if it needs to be said, especially when it comes to justice, I'm going to say it. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I don't know how many people are online. I know people have jumped in and out. I know it's an odd time. I think people are going to probably catch this once I've disconnected. So I'm going to say good night, or good day, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are. And I'm going to just say that I think that the next time I hop on here, I will have a surprise for you all, and it will be a surprise that hopefully you'll be ready for, because whether people are ready or not, they're going to get this surprise. And I don't care, because I demanded what was mine, and I accepted my worth, and I believed in God, and I believed in God's promises, and God is always faithful. So I'm going to leave it there. And I hope some of you got something out of this, at least something. Then my time on here would not have been wasted. All right. And thank you all for your support and love. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for all your beautiful comments. Thank you about King, and to King, and for him. He's going to see these. And thank you, everybody. Bye.